This is our third read of The Garden from Frog and Toad together, and this is in our Unit 5 California Journeys Grade 1 textbook. And Arnold Lobel is the one who wrote the story. He drew the pictures, and his story is a fantasy. A fantasy is a story that could never happen because the animals talk and they act like people, so that could never happen. At the end of the story, we're going to do our game where you get to show me one, two, or three fingers to show me that you know what's going on in the story. So let's read it together. Everyone, put your finger underneath the first word. If your fingers track all the words in this book, then you get to either give your finger a kiss at the end or pat its back at the end. Okay, so make sure it's doing its job and you're doing yours of reading with me. Are you ready? Begin. The Garden from Frog and Toad Together by Arnold Lobel. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it was hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." "How soon?" asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now, seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now, seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now, seeds, start growing!" Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. "You are shouting too much," said Frog. "These poor seeds are afraid to grow." "My seeds are afraid to grow?" asked Toad. "Of course," said Frog. "Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." That night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat!" said Toad. "My seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." Toad went out to his garden with some candles. "I will read the seeds a story," said Toad. "Then they will not be afraid." Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." Then Toad felt very tired, and he fell asleep. "Toad, Toad, wake up!" said Frog. "Look at your garden." Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. "At last!" shouted Toad. "My seeds have stopped being afraid to grow." "And now you will have a nice garden too," said Frog. "Yes," said Toad, "but you were right, Frog. It was very hard work." Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the story, and I want you to tell me who the author and illustrator of the book is. Is it H.A. Ray, Arnold Lobel, or Eric Carle? Arnold Lobel. So this story could not happen in real life. So is it nonfiction, informational text, or fantasy? It's a fantasy. It's baloney. So who are the characters in this story? Do you remember who the characters were? Frog and Toad, Jack and Jill, Jack and the Beanstalk. Frog and Toad. They were the characters. Here's Frog, here's Toad. So what's the frog doing at the beginning of the story? What's that frog doing? Is he helping Toad? Is he feeding the birds? Or is he working in his garden? Yes, at the beginning of the story, Frog was working in his garden. 3 fingers up for that one. So what kind of seeds did Toad plant? Do you remember? Were they radish seeds, flower seeds, or carrot seeds? They're flower seeds, just like Frog's flowers. You know, he was growing flowers, and so he had flower seeds. So why was it noisy in Toad's garden? Do you remember why it was so noisy? Was it because Toad was shouting? Was it because a machine was digging? Or was it because the birds were singing? Why was it so noisy in Toad's garden? It was because the toad was shouting. You should have had 1 finger up for that one. Which things did Frog not tell Toad to do? So, let rain fall on the seeds, let the sun shine on the seeds, dig up the seeds. So which was the thing that he did not tell Toad to do? He did not tell him to dig up the seeds. Toad told Frog growing a garden was very hard work, a lot of fun, or a great way to get flowers. What did he tell him? He told him that it was very hard work to grow a garden. You should have had 1 finger up. Okay, do you remember why, well, it says Toad thought the seeds were afraid of the dark, the farmer, or the weather. He thought they were afraid of the dark. So, okay, let's just think about some more things he did. After Toad read his seeds a story, what else did he do? Did he shout at them after he read the story? Did he sing them a song? Or sing them songs? Or did he take a nap? No. He sang them songs after he read his story to them. Okay, so Frog and Toad are good friends, right? So how can you guys be a good friend? Can you give your friends advice? Sometimes you have to call them on their bad stuff, like when they're shouting and yelling. That's not their best life to shout and yell. So maybe if you're a good friend, you might say, people are going to be scared of you or not have a lot of respect for you if you go around shouting and yelling all the time. Can you just try it a different way? Or maybe as a good friend, you can give advice on how you get things done that they want to do. You can teach them. Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to write now. I forgot to give my finger a very big kiss or a pat on the back. It did a great job at tracking the words. I hope your fingers did too. And that was our that was our last read, our third and final read of this story. I hope you're ready for the test on Friday. Bye-bye.